Hey fam, it's your host and your boy Yashin. Welcome back to the channel and thank you so much for clicking on the video. And today's guide is all about learning the basic mechanics of the Elden Ring itself. Because as you proceed through your first playthrough, especially for the newer players itself, it can be quite a tedious task to understand how the Elden Ring and the Souls game actually works. So in this guide we're gonna dissect everything that you need to know and to understand for you to be able to successful into this very first endeavor that's gonna be the brutal experience as the Elden Ring itself. So one thing you need to understand as you're going to your first playthrough, you will come against bosses and areas that will literally humble you. And those instances it's very important as you as a player to understand, to stay calm, do not throw your controller to the TV or the monitor or through the window or to anybody else you don't like in your house. It is important at these instances you understand that they are there by design. They do not block your path, they become the path. They are the path. Through skills or creativity or just by coming back later, you will be able to overcome these obstacles in any order you see fit. But before we can do anything, you need to understand the basics. Like they say, master the basics, then repeat them every day without fail. Small disciplines repeated with constancy every day leads to a great achievements gained slowly over time. Nothing can be more true if it comes to the Souls games. So where do we start? First, it's important that you understand how stamina works. At the core of combat is stamina bar. It is the green bar under your health bar that is displayed in red. This resource is depleted if you commit an action necessary to the words of combat. For example, sprinting, dodging, blocking, and attacking. All these combat moves and abilities requires for you to use stamina. So let's talk about how combat actually works within the Elden Ring. We can call it the flow of combat itself. How you move into the game itself, how you interact with the enemies of your surrounding and generally. You start with the basic, like I told you. You need to understand your buttons and generally. So if you want to lock into a target, you press R3. If you want to raise your shield, you press L1. This will prevent you from being hit from fast attack that you find is a little bit too fast for you to react. But remember, while you're blocking an attack, your stamina bar will be depleted. So it's important that you drop your shield between every single attack in order for you to regain your stamina bar faster. Now, you need to understand one more thing. Blocking fast attack often doesn't deplete that much form of stamina. But on the other hand, blocking a heavy attack can lead towards you breaking your own guard. And that will lead you towards being wide open for counterattacks of the enemy itself. Remember as well, if you think you can anticipate an attack or a series of attacks, it is sometimes better to roll through them. Roll have a certain form and a visible frame around them that nullified all attack if you roll just in the instant where you think you might be hit. While avoiding damage through rolling is probably one of the most difficult things to do in a game, but avoiding damage through rolling is definitely one of the most efficient ways to save stamina. By rolling aside, you can also do different forms of jumping attacks or even guard counter to avoid incoming damage or apply damage towards your enemy, just if you time it all correctly. And don't forget, always stay under the 50% equipment load, so you avoid something that we call within the community as fat rolling. Another small tip aside guys, if you come across a difficult enemy just in generally, try to learn the mechanics. Stay calm, pay attention towards the animations, because I can promise you over time you will learn how to dodge them, block them and even counter them correctly. You will learn their attacks, you will learn when the openings are, you will learn to fight with a beautiful mixture between blocking, dodging and countering. As a general tip, you need to make sure you always block fast attack, you roll aside through heavy attack, but if you can time it perfectly, every single heavy attack of the boss can be countered. By doing so, you can do a deadly visual attack towards your enemy. Learning to fight efficiency, that's something will come over time. But just be patient, learn the mechanics, and you will learn how to save stamina and be deadly at the same time. Beside the normal way of playing and engaging in combat within the Elden Ring itself, from dodging, blocking and countering itself, the Elden Rings provide you with another unique system that is literally an essential core mechanic of the Elden Ring playstyle. It calls itself the God Counter. And you're wondering yourself, what the hell is a God Counter? A God Counter, the concept is very simply, that is weaponizing your defense. Shortly after an enemy attacks you, you repel it by pressing R2. By doing so, this will lead you to a God Counter. And these God Counters are extremely powerful. There is another way for players to be efficient to engage a different form of combat. For those who are still struggling in performing a normal form of a counter, and you find yourself in a situation that you can perform a God Counter and you see an opening, always do. Because this will lead you to an opportunity to do a critical attack with R1. And that will lead you to breaking the enemy's invisible super armor shield that is around them. Now you're wondering yourself what I mean with a super armor just generally. Now if it comes to the Elden Ring, every single enemy you encounter has a certain form of an extra layer of armor around them. By doing damage, you're filling up a certain form of an invisible meter that's on them. You'll be able to stagger an enemy eventually. But remember, by doing a heavy R2 attack, you will be filling up that meter faster. And by doing a jump R2 attack, you're even filling that meter even faster than that. So if you find yourself in any form of an opening during a fight, always do an R2 attack, because that will lead for you to turn the tide of the battle towards your favor very fast. But remember as well that the bosses have a certain form of invisible super armor that regenerates as well over time. So it's extremely important, if you sense that the boss will be staggered very soon, you definitely go on an offensive with your R2 attack. Try to do a lot of different forms of R2 attack so you can stagger the boss and do critical attack on him or her. But if you want to be more on the safe side, keep on spamming R1. They are much faster, safer and have more combo to add. Now, if you truly want to consider and prioritizing damage over defense, you can increase your damage output by two-handling your weapon. If you see that your shield and sword doesn't break the enemy's defense fast enough, do consider then two-handling your weapon. But however, even if you're doing more damage, more super damage, and have new swinging abilities, there's another key aspect about a sword you need to keep under consideration, is that with a sword you can also block. But of course, blocking with a sword is not as effective and useful as blocking with a shield, but it's still certainly very helpful in certain form of encounters where you have nothing better than just a sword. As you play with two-handed, you prioritize dodging over blocking. How do you do a handle? It depends on the system that you work. If you are playing on the PS5, you press triangle and R1 to two-handle your weapons on your right side, or triangle and L1 to two-handle the weapon on your left side. Another offensive alternative to two-handling is powerstancing, which can be achieved by equipping two weapons from the same type in each hand. By pressing L1, you do a unique set of combos that is specific towards that type of weapon. It can be utilized in jumping attacks, but remember, jumping attacks are a unique way to get close yourself against an enemy, or Q attack against an enemy at the same time. If it comes to the Souls games, we have something that's called the Flask of Crimson Tears, which can be used to heal your incoming damages, and which can always be replenished of every site of grace you will find through the entire game. Additionally to that, another way you can replenish your flask is by clearing certain from a group of enemies, or killing these beetles across the land between you will find scattered in your adventures. At every site of grace you can also upgrade your flask with something that was called himself the Golden Seed and the Sacred Tear. Now you're wondering yourself, what are they? Now the Golden Seed, first of all, you will find them beneath every single smaller earth tree, and the Sacred Tear, you will always find them in every single church of Marika. So it is truly advisable when you are exploring the game, truly look out for these places and these zones, because it is extremely important for your survivability into the game itself. On the other hand, the golden seed itself increases the amount of flask you can carry, and on the other hand, the sacred tear increases the potency of these flasks. Furthermore, in every side of grace, you can increase the amount of capacity you can carry between the flask crimson tears and its counterpart, the cerulean flask, which you uses to increase your mana capacity or consumptions. You can allocate all of this in every single side of grace to better suit your need and your playstyle. Then we have something unique if it comes towards the Soulsborne game. Within the Elden Ring we have an additional flask or supplements default of your flask of crimson tears and cereal tears. It's called the Flask of Wandering Physics, which is a certain form of an alchemy concoction which, when used, you gain a special form of effects by the hand of something that's called the crystal tears, which you will find scattered across the lands between. But these concussions and tears comes in different forms and abilities. Some boosts your poise, some boosts your stamina regions, others reduces your FP consumptions, or even boosts your attack power. So you wonder where you can find them. You can find them, of course, scattered across the land between, beneath every single Earth tree, after every single boss of every single Earth tree bosses in every zone, or behind every hook, nook and cranny. And once again, it's truly advisable for you to explore the Elden Ring because they are truly hidden everywhere and scattered everywhere, and they are truly unique for certain circumstances and truly to adapt in the playstyle that you want to go. Remember as well, death in a Soulsborne game is a common thing. It is a certain form of a reflex that you need to have, that the strategy that you apply to the first hand is not really the best strategy. So death isn't a recurrent thing if it comes to the Soulsborne game. That is something you should not be afraid of. But when you do die in a Soulsborne game, you will automatically lose all your runes that you had gathered. But it doesn't mean that's the end of the game. Once you manage yourself to go back to the place that you died the last time, you will be able to get back your runes. Only if you didn't die in the process in getting towards there. Dying in the Elden Ring is a process for you to recollect your mistakes and refine a strategy to proceed moving forward. For that, it is truly important as a gamer you learn to approach different combats and different situations. If you see an enemy is weak against hit and run tactics, then it's probably more advisable for you to fight on a horse. Your horse approach the fight differently and your playstyles is going to be completely differently. So how do you approach it? How do you fight with a horse? By pressing the R1 and R2, you'll be swinging with your sword on your right hand. By pressing L1 and L2, you'll be pressing with your sword on your left hand. By charging an attack with R1 and R2, you will be doing a charge attack on the representative side. So it's truly important as a gamer and as a player yourself, you learn how to approach different single combat. Some of them is more efficient for you to play on a horse, and the other one is more efficient for you to play on foot. Another thing that you can use within the Elden Ring is stealth. By pressing L3, you'll be starting crouching, and in this stage the enemy aggro is reduced significantly, so that means you can approach the enemy with certain enemies in certain zones and clear them with zero ease. Another thing that you can do very early on is crafting. By buying yourself a crafting kit and have a unique item you can find on the Merchant Calais and the Church of Elden, you will be able to craft yourself different form of trinkets, potions, buff, food for your steed, arrows and debuffs, and the lists are endless. Truly get them early on because it helps you in survivability. There will come a time that you will feel like you're just not doing enough damage. Therefore, you're going to need to reinforce your weapon, which can be done quite early on the stage of the game itself. At the Church of Elden, you will find yourself a smithing table where you can reinforce your weapon all the way to +3. If you need to upgrade your weapon even further, you're going to need a true blacksmith. But one thing you need to put into consideration if you're upgrading your weapon: every weapon into the game can be upgraded, but every weapon is going to need to be upgraded separately. Depends on the type of weapon you are using. You are going to need a smithing stone or a somber smithing stone. On the other side, if it comes to upgrading your shield, The one thing you need to put into consideration is every reliable shield have a certain 100% physical negation, but you can always consider using a different form of a shield, depends on the counter and the playstyle you are going to. The other stats you need to look into is guard boost. The higher the guard boost you have, the less stamina damage you will take while you are blocking. But the true thing if it comes to upgrading your weapon is that upgrading your weapons and your armaments can be a true commitment, a true test of your own endeavor and playstyle. By choosing a certain form of weapon, it will significantly change your playstyle and build moving forward into the Elden Ring. So take your time and test every single weapon and choose wisely, and then upgrade your weapon as you see fit. However, you can apply an Ashes of War to your weapon, and often it will allow you to choose a more beneficial damage type and scaling option for that weapon. Beyond the scaling options, Ashes of War can be used to apply skills to your armaments. Once applied, press L2. This will unleash their effects. To apply an Ashes of War, be sure to pick up a redstone in the cellar at the gate from runes. After this, set aside of grace at the checkpoint and experiment with the many options you have. Remember, these skills are very powerful, and they do require for you as a player to use a certain small amount of focus points, also known as FP. It's the blue bar beneath your health bar. That is the most valuable resource, especially for magic builds, which they rely on to cast. But to be honest, every build within the Elden Ring of a Souls game should rely a certain amount of FP to buff itself one way or another. And another powerful way for you to use FP is by using summoning spirits. Spirits can be found early on onto the game by acquiring a spirit bell. Once you have your summoning bell, you can use them through a quick bar option. But remember, spirits can only be summoned to certain areas, boss fights and zones. You can see it through a form of a spirit gate on the left side of your screen. Another thing you need to remember, spirits cannot be used in PvP or any form of multiplayer co-op experience you may encounter into the game. Speaking about multiplayer, if you're having trouble in an open world experience, be on the lookout for further calling remedies, which can be used in the open world to see the different summoning signs of other players. But on the other hand, before every form of battles, you're always going to see certain form of NPC summoning signs. So be sure to make good use of them. Alternatively, other player signs can be accessed in summoning pools located at summoning effigies. They are located at certain key places and areas into the game. But if you do want to know more about multiplayer, I do recommend you to take your time in reading the different form of multiplayer items and aspects, so you have a general understanding of every single item. Besides multiplayer, the Elden Ring is a massive open world game, so navigating through it can be quite important. As one of the type of multiplayer, you will find different form of maps, and the Elden Ring is indicated in the form of tokens. And every foot of every zone you come across, you will find in a zone a small indication of a totem. And these totems you're always gonna find on the foot of it, a certain map of the area itself. Like this, you're opening up the entire zone and you see a more clear picture of how the game truly looks like. As for every type of RPG out there, within the Elden Ring we also have something that's called itself a build. But what is a build? A build is determined by the stats you allocate at the site of grace. The very first chance you have in constructing a build is by after you're summoned by Melina and after your very first encounter with her. After you invest your very first rune with her, that's the starting point of your own personal build. While you start the game for the very first time, you have the choice to choose between different forms of characters. Some of them are exceeding in magic, the other one exceeding in melee. But remember that your starting class that you choose does not dedicate your build, but you do. While every starting class may give them a different form of stats and weakness, you truly are free within the Elden Ring to choose and to play however and to construct your character however you see fit. If you haven't settled in any form of a build, you can never go wrong by investing your runes into vigor for more HP and resistance, endurance for more stamina and equipment load, and mind to increase your FP consumptions for magic. All of these stats are of course extremely great, but they won't truly determine your build. The stats that will make you build your build are stats like strength, most effectively against heavy wielding armaments, as for defense as well. Strength weapons are often very slow, so being tanky can become very quite handy. Another stat you need to look out for if you're building a strength build is poise. It will raise your heavy wielding capacity, and having a high poise will prevent you from getting interrupted mid-air. And the other counterpart, you have dexterity. Dexterity is the counterpart of strength. Raise your ability to wield a lot of light armaments, boosting their attack power, and it's often soften your fall damages, make it harder for you to be knocked out of your horse, and reduce your casting speed of spells as well. Spells is usually skills and damage in form of intelligence or faith. Intelligence greatly boosts the damage of a sorcery, while faith generally boosts your damage of healing and incantations. Arcane is also a new attribute within the Elden Ring, and it governs your item discovery, which increases your enemy item drops. It's also a stat that increases your damage for certain incantations and sorcery, for example bleed and draconic form of abilities. As you play in your stats and attribute scaling of your weapon, remember every weapon scales differently, so it can truly be that your favorite form of weapon can truly determine how your build eventually gonna look like in form of endgame. But now you're wondering yourself which class to choose, so let us go quickly through the different classes within the Elden Ring has to offer. But remember, like any other Souls game, starting classes aren't a fixed one-way highway on how you're going to play the rest of your game, but rather a collective of attribute, equipments and spells that will jumpstart your playstyles and build early on into the game itself. Which means maybe the lower classes may sound and look weaker, but they will level up easier and more adaptable to the rest of the classes you may find. But let us start first the very first class, the Vagabonds. The Vagabond is well known within the community itself as a quality based class. What is a quality based class? That is your typical knight class. This is a class which skills himself perfectly between strength and dexterity. This class allows you as a beginner friendly class to wield every single weapon that you want throughout your game. So if you are playing and not sure yet which type of weapon you want, then the Vagabond is your playstyles you want to go. It comes with a very strong shield with a perfect damage negation, an halberd and a sword. On the other hand, the warrior is your typical dexterity class, which scales himself perfectly into dexterity weapons such as katanas, curved swords and etc. The warrior is a very strong beginning class, but unfortunately within the Elden Ring they are much better beginning class than the warrior itself. On the other hand, the hero is your typical strength class. It is your best choice for a high-end strength build at the start of the game, which it scales himself at the highest form of attribute points into strength itself. Because of that and in endurance output, you are able to wield heavy armor very early on into the game itself. If you want to play in the playstyles you want to have strong weapons, heavy armor, then this class is your class to go. If you want to feel like a barbarian from the get-go, that is a class for you to go. You might think that the bandit is your starting dexterity powerhouse, but it actually scales himself the highest in Arcane. It means your item discovery is increased from the start. Your class has an affinity to do bleed damage as well. Your starting class started with a short bow and a knife. You are not the most tankiest class of the start, so caution is truly something you need to have. The astrologer is your go-to-go starting class if you want to wield magic from the get-go. Even if the starting class has a starting low level, it is the highest in attribute in form of intelligence and mind. It is the counterpoint to what is the strength build of the hero class itself. Make it the perfect class actually to wield a magic build from the start, with a strong glintstone sorcery and high FP but low HP and decent amount of dexterity, so you're not completely useless in form of combat. If the astrologer is the intelligence based class, then the prophet is the faith based class. It is the exact opposite class with a martial art class minded. You start with a decent strength and dexterity, which makes you capable of wielding a spear. Additional to that, you have powerful healing, magic and incantations. But with a shield, that's completely crap. The samurai is your typical weep class. It is your non-magical all-rounder, with a strong physical attributes and double digits and excellent starting weapon that can inflict bleed damage. To be honest, the Uchi Katana is one of the strongest weapons into the game. It will bring you literally all the way to endgame with zero problem. Additional to that, you have a longbow, different type of arrows. The samurai starts with a very high dexterity, strength, and there's something you can invest in if you want to wield into a shield, for example. The samurai also provides you with a decent form of armor protection, and it truly is an all-around perfect class for beginner friendly for melee builds. Well, the prisoner has an unfortunate name and look like Griffin from the Berserker anime manga. That is the perfect class for those who want to play with as a battle mage from the start. A perfect PvP class as well to begin with. It is a high adaptable class, a hybrid class between dexterity and magic. The prisoner starts with a rapier, which scales himself quite good and supportedly with dexterity itself. It has a very strong sorcery as well, glint blade. So if you want to play as a form of a battle mage from the get-go and from the start, you cannot go wrong with the prisoner class itself. If you're looking for a faith-based class that's most physical than the prophet itself, then the confessor is your starting class to go. Armed with a good sword and a shield, support, incantation and stealth, it is your best class towards a paladin or a temple knight playstyle. If the samurai is the physical all-rounder, then the confessor is the magical version of it. While the witch may look like crap at first glance, is actually a good way to ensure that you do not neglect any starting attributes. As you start at 10 all across the board, you start at level 1, which means you can level up faster and however you want. Your starting class is nothing to talk about, but that is just the fun part of it, because you're starting with nothing. The game teaches you to enjoy every encounter and to test every weapon, wield every armor, like a true RPG game is supposed to be. On this beautiful jazz note, we are coming to the end of our ultimate guide of the Elden Ring itself, and hopefully you did enjoy yourself, and hopefully I would say smash the like button, comments down below, and subscribe to the channel. I'm your host, the Ashmode itself. This is my take, my beginner's guide of everything that I've learned and everything I think that you should learn as well if you're playing the Elden Ring for the very first time. Like I said, hopefully you did enjoy yourself, and hopefully it was instructive and you learned something, and I proved your like moving forward, because as a young content creator it does help me tremendously a lot. So I would say smash that like button, help me reach the 100 likes within this video, share this content as much as you can, because it can help enough fellow players as ourselves who are struggling right now, us speaking, with the Elden Ring itself. So I would say share this content as much as you can in every single social media page, forum you can find left and right. And of course, if you have any form of question whatsoever, you will find me on Discord, Twitch, Twitter and Instagram, and any other representative page you will find one click button away in my YouTube page. You will find directly towards those representative page. I would say come and join my Twitch streams, come and ask me anything that you want, and Discord, Twitter or any other social media pages. I'm always there to answer. It's always one love to me. And I will say thank you very much, and hopefully I can see you all very soon into the next installment, the next playthrough, walkthrough, tips and tricks, if it comes from the Soulsborne game or for any other type of game, because I am at the end of the day a variety type of streamer and gamer as well. But the Soulsborne game are my babies because I truly love the world, the experience, and just generally I love the brutal experience within this type of games that I just cannot find anywhere else. I'll say thank you very much. I will say thank you very once again, thank you. I cannot thank you guys enough. I'll say merci beaucoup, and I'll see you all next time. Ciao ciao. One love. Always. Never in the house. Peace.